Let's speak to Latvia's Foreign Minister, Baiba Braže, who joins me live on the programme. Foreign Minister, thank you for being here with us on BBC News. I'll come to the security guarantees that Donald Trump was talking about in a moment, but your main takeaways from that extraordinary gathering at the White House yesterday.
Good afternoon from Riga. And it was a good meeting. It was a meeting of people who want peace, very clearly, whether it's President Trump or President of Ukraine, European leaders. And they represented the whole variety of countries and alliances and union. So very constructive, practical, rational, straightforward. It was also good that there was a bilateral between President Zelensky and Trump, and that President Trump tried to call and speak and convince President Putin. And that is a party about which we have the least convictions that they actually want peace. From what we have seen, Russia continues bombing Ukraine, attacking day, night, every night, and we have seen no interruption in that.
Well, I'll come back.
Also, when we look at Russian economy, Russian politics, Russian church, education system, literally any area of life in Russia, it's all about war. So to turn that, to stop that, there have to be some indications we have to see. But President Trump is correct. Russia is suffering huge losses. Economy is not doing well. There is a public resentment. So there is quite a bit of also takes for Russia to stop the war.
A brief answer to this question. Diplomacy with flattery, is that the new world order in terms of how to deal with Donald Trump?
I'm not sure I understand.
The sort of flattery that all those European leaders were having to actually just lay out at the feet of the US president.
Listen, I don't think that's a sort of right assessment. From what we have seen, there have been fair assessments, whether it's Prime Minister Keir Starmer, whose leadership we highly appreciate, both within putting together various countries and regularly engaging with President Trump, with others, and putting together coalition of the willing, but also President Stubb of Finland, Mrs. Ursula von der Leyen, and so on and so forth. So people express them themselves in a different way, but to call it flattery, I think that's an exaggeration.
All right. In terms of the security guarantees that we were hearing about yesterday in overarching terms, you heard more detail from the US president in the last hour or so. What have you made of the detail that is added today?
Since the beginning, looking at what type of peace deal or ceasefire, if ceasefire takes place, what type of arrangement should be in place, it's pretty straightforward. Ukraine has to be able to maintain significant military capacity. It's the strongest military currently in Europe. It's war experienced, it's successful, it's very innovative. And they have to be able to maintain that sufficient deterrence force also after the end of the war or when the ceasefire takes place. And in the same time, we in Europe clearly understand that Ukraine will be a security guarantee for Europe when the war ends because of that capacity, capability, and experience. And then also in the same place, in the same time, we have to be very clear. What is the freezing of the front line if that takes place? Is there a withdrawal of forces on both sides? Currently, the front line is very, very, very flexible, very fluid because of the variety of different tactical moves that both sides are doing. So how to verify that? There has to be a verification mechanism of ceasefire or if it's a peace agreement. So there are various quite detailed elements that have to be there on the ground. That also includes a presence and support to Ukraine of those countries who are interested in maintaining that Ukrainian ability to defend herself. And that is very welcome, of course, to hear that the US will be willing to support that effort. On the details, we have to see. That is for the military. It's not an abstract notion. There is, chiefs of defense have a pretty clear idea what is possible, how is possible, what capabilities, arrangements have to be in place.
Sure, but in terms of your view of a security guarantee, can it work without the American presence on the ground? He's talking vaguely about air cover, but can it work without Americans being involved on the ground?
Listen, I will let that to the military because there are arrangements that can work in various ways. But again, it's about the commitment, because once there is a political commitment, the next steps are then how and what and when. So that's what matters.
A final twin thought then, because you said earlier we still have to establish whether Vladimir Putin is serious. Should European countries still be pushing for a ceasefire? We heard that from the French and the Germans yesterday. And do you think this summit will actually happen at some stage, whenever it is due to happen? Do you think it will actually happen, or is it a possibility that Putin puts up so many proposals and measures that actually that meeting just never materializes?
The Russian tactic is well known. It's delay, deny, distract, and so on and so forth. So, there are well-known sort of steps that Russia is doing. But we have also clearly seen that President Trump and other leaders at some moment had enough of it. And so the three big lines of effort that we have seen, which is maintaining transatlantic unity to push for the peace. It can involve ceasefire, obviously, because it's much more constructive to talk and have those peace negotiations once there is a ceasefire. But there have been various cases in the history, even in Europe. So transatlantic unity, support to Ukraine's self-defense, because until Russia stops attacks, Ukraine needs to be able to defend herself. And again, that involves not only our support from various countries, but also Ukraine's own defense industry, which is excellent. And the third big line of effort is weakening Russia and forcing Russia to peace. Again, that pressure, that constant pressure across those lines of efforts and transatlantic unity is essential to get to the peace. And that will also involve then Russia and being able push Russia to compromise, because if President Putin thinks he will get his sort of ultimatums fulfilled, I don't think there is a reason to believe that.
Foreign Minister, we have to leave it there, but thank you for joining us here on BBC News. Thanks for your time.